With all the rumors of Pokémon Diamond and Pearl remakes in the air, I thought it'd be time I'd give my hopes and dreams for these remakes. Generation 4 holds a special place in my heart. I started with Pokémon Platinum when I was only 9 years old after seeing a kid on the playground playing it on his DS. I was already a Pokémon fan through the anime and the card game I didn't know how to play. So being able to start my own Pokémon journey with my own Pokémon was life-changing and made me fall in love with video games. And a big part of that is thanks to Sinnoh, so personal expectations for these remakes are extremely high. With Pokémon's 25th anniversary right around the corner, I think the Pokémon Company has something very special cooking for us after the Sword and Shield debacle. I mean, people must have forgotten about the tree by now, right? Also, how do I know they're getting ready for a Gen 4 remake? Well, look at this. Does it look familiar? I'm definitely not gonna get my hopes crushed. Also, this is a personal list, so it's not about you.
It's about me, it's about hope, it's about dreams.
Let's start the list! Number 10. Starting off with the most unrealistic wish, last year I played this incredible game called Dragon Quest XI's. It's, your modern version of a classic turn-based JRPG. And you know what? They made a whole separate 2D mode for the game, just so classic fans could experience this new game as if it was made back in the 90s. Nintendo has done a little bit of this in recent years, like in some sections of Mario Odyssey, and that separate 2D mode in Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games. And you might know where I'm going with this. Yep, I want a mode where I can play the game with the original 2D pixel art. Replaying the DS games just made me feel bad because we'll never get to see the amazing pixel art ever again. Modern 3D Pokemon games are just devoid of personality. But if we do get this mode, I'll take still battle sprites as a trade-off. Though if Game Freak wants to start the Gen 5 remake train, they can also add moving battle sprites. Anything to end bad 3D Pokemon models. Look at how they massacred my boy. Number 9. Pokemon usually delivers on the music. Sword and Shield was good, Sun and Moon was and Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire has a great soundtrack. Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee have an amazing orchestrated rendition of Generation 1 music. But to tell you the truth, my ears have been poisoned by the great Insane in the Rain music here on YouTube. All of 2020 he has been covering Sinnoh music with his big bombastic band. And since they all achieve eargasm status, Game Freak has some big shoes to fill when remaking the music. But I'm not too worried since the original soundtrack is so godly on its own, but amping up the jazz would just send my ears to the moon. However, there are some people who don't like orchestrated music, so that's why that leads us to Number 8. In Pokemon Heart Gold and Soul Silver, which by the way are the best remakes ever, and what do you know? They're Gen 4 games. How about that? We were introduced to the Game Boy sound item. When turned on, this item let you listen to the original Game Boy soundtrack. I want them to introduce a new item called the DS Sounds that would change the music back to the original Diamond and Pearl soundtrack, which, in my opinion, like I've said, is the strongest soundtrack out of all 8 generations, so we gotta bring them back. Number 7. With Alolan and now Galarian Forms, Sinnoh Forms really seems like the next logical step and would be really interesting. Being a colder climate at all, it would be cool to see what Game Freak does for Sinnoh redesigns. Looking through the Sinnoh Pokédex, besides the Pokemon introduced in that generation, it's mostly Kanto with a bit of Johto and Hoenn sprinkled in. But being 8 generations in, I think it's time to see some largely ignored Unova, Kalos, Alola, and Galar Pokemon thrown into the mix with new designs. Everyone knows Game Freak will do this, but I'll say it anyways. They're definitely going to give a load of Gen 4 Pokemon Gigamax forms. Calling it here, Garchomp will look like the mech from Evangelion, Togekiss is going to be a fighter jet, Bronzong will be a giant church and somehow connected to the church in Hearthome City. The starters will get ones too. Torterra will obviously turn into the world turtle myth its design was based on. Infernape's design will be based on Seitan Taisei, the Japanese monkey god on the cloud that inspired the creation of Goku, and Empoleon will either be a giant triton or a huge castle. Watch me be right. Number 6. Sadly, I know the slot machines in Veilstone City won't be coming back, just like in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. Gotta keep that E for everyone, you know? But I hope they at least replace it with something else worthwhile. Maybe Pikachu Pachinko? Something I also fear may not return is the Poketch, which I'm right now finding out it's pronounced Poketch, like Pokemon plus Watch? My whole life I've been calling it the Poketech. Where did I even get that from? Anyway, it may not come back because the Switch doesn't have a bottom screen, rendering it useless. It'll probably be seen when opening up a menu like we see the Rotom phone. What I want them to do is somehow incorporate the Poketch to replace all 8 HMs, preventing you from having 2 poor HM slaves. If there's one thing I didn't like about Sinnoh, was the amount of HMs required to get through the region. So please, Game Freak, keep doing what you're doing and get rid of HMs.
Number 5.
So, I'm sure Game Freak will try to implement wild areas in the remake. But where? The first place that comes to mind is the Great Marsh. Instead of traveling section to section, the whole area will just now be one big map you can go and catch Pokemon in. But that place works like the Safari Zone, so probably not there. The other places that come to mind are the routes surrounding Mount Cornet. Since Mount Cornet is straight in the middle of the region, there can be an east side wild area that connects to Mount Cornet, and exiting would lead you to the west side wild area. Other than that, all I can think about is Route 216, since it's one of the most open areas in Sinnoh, and they kind of already did an icy environment in the Crown Tundra DLC in Sword and Shield. It'll be interesting how they translate the region into the new modern design. Pokemon isn't grid-based anymore, but I hope they keep the maze-like structure of Mount Cornet with all its hidden areas.
Number 4.
I think Pokemon hasn't quite figured out is the online. Well, actually they did back in Generation 6 with the player search system, or the PSS, which showed you which of your friends were online, people you've interacted with, and random people that were also playing online. You could click on the player's icon and ask them to trade in battle. They literally perfected it, but somebody at the company must have used amnesia and had to throw it all the way with the Festival Plaza in Sun and Moon, which was a mess and so hard to connect with people. And then they replaced that with the Ycom in Sword and Shield, which lets you communicate with friends, but there you gotta set up a room with a code and pray to God some rando doesn't use the same code at the same time as you, otherwise chaos will ensue. So bring the PSS back, please. And while we're talking about the online, please bring back the Wi-Fi Plaza. The Wi-Fi Plaza was a place underneath the Pokemon Center that connected you to players around the world and would let you play minigames and ride around in Pokemon floats. I only experienced this a few times when I was younger, and now that the DS Wi-Fi service is down, there is no way to ever experience this part of the game again. Sure, Game Freak would have to rework the touchscreen minigames, but anything for the fans that have been with you for the longest, right? Oh, and before I forget, they'll definitely bring back the underground secret bases too. Since Animal Crossing was all the big craze a few months ago, what better way to relive that customizable hype with making your own Pokemon gyms? And bases will be shareable online and will fill your Twitter timeline for weeks to come.
Number 3.
Fun fact, I don't care much about battling in Pokemon games. Let me rephrase that. I like battling throughout the story, but once the game is over, you'll catch me catching Pokemon and not battling them. That's why in ORAS I didn't notice that the Battle Frontier was gone, but I do feel for those people who miss it. So I really hope they bring it back in this generation, just for the fact that this place would look really cool in 3D, and it'll add to the inevitable tease of Gen 5 remakes.
Number 2.
I want new forms for Palkia and Dialga. These have got to be some of the coolest legendaries yet, so why not make them cooler? I'm not sure if they'll go with the Primal name after ORAS, but to be fair they totally can because Primal Dialga predates Primal Kyogre and Groudon appearing in Pokemon Explorers of Time, Darkness, and Sky. I mean, Giratina has 2 forms, so maybe they can make otherworldly forms for Dialga and Palkia? If they add Arceus into the game, they can totally reuse that awesome ghostly deer design they had. I don't know, I just thought it looked super cool. The mythology of Sinnoh is one of the coolest parts of the game, so seeing new forms of some of the best designed legendaries would be so awesome. Number 1. Sadly, I won't be getting a Platinum remake, but instead Diamond and Pearl. So, does that mean no Giratina for me? Well, actually you can get Giratina in Diamond and Pearl through the Turnback Cave, but that maze is not as cool as the Distortion World. So that's why I think they'll have a post-game mission in the vein of the Delta episode. I'm sure after getting the boxed legendaries and beating the Elite Four, Looker will give you a call and ask you to help him track down Cyrus. This will lead you to the Turnback Cave and somehow lead you to the Distortion World. How and why exactly? That's for Game Freak to come up with. I'm just a guy on YouTube. But while we're at it, Game Freak should also bring back all the event Pokemon and implement them into the world. Let us find the Arceus flute somewhere in Sinnoh and have the chance to catch God himself. Finish the Cresselia story and let us face off against Darkrai, and let us bike down that narrow stretch of land to catch Shaman. Sinnoh is just packed with mysteries and wonder. I'm a little worried, but I'm sure Game Freak will knock it out of the park with these remakes. So far, Pokemon Heart Gold and Soul Silver and Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire have been some of the best Pokemon games to come out so far, so if they keep it up, they'll have plenty of happy customers. And if new Pokemon Snap is all we get this year, I'll be a little bit sad, but happy that we got a new Pokemon game anyway. Even if the remakes are Let's Go Gold and Silver, I'll be fine with that, as long as we don't get Let's Go Diamond and Pearl. Let's hope. Now that the Super Bagel has given his hopes and dreams for the Sinnoh remakes, will they come true? Will there even be Sinnoh remakes? And what game will he play next? We'll find out soon enough as the adventure continues.